Thank you for joining us today for Cape Chronicle. I'm Mike Renick. We have three guests in the studio today. First, we'll be talking to real estate broker Liz Lockhart. Next, we will meet Dr. Tamara Buck, SEMO's Mass Media Department Chair, as well as the Chair for the P.O.R.C.H Initiative. And lastly, we will talk to Cape's Wastewater Plant Manager, Todd Fulton. That's all ahead next on Cape Chronicle.
Every day,
millions of people
are connecting.
Father,
cosplayer,
mentor,
actor. It's time we take a step forward, come together,
and discover
how accepting our differences can make us stronger.
Welcome to Cape Chronicle. I'm Mike Renick. Liz Lockhart is an accredited real estate broker with 19 years of experience. In 2012, she opened up her own brokerage, Riverbend Realty, which she still owns and operates today. Liz, nice to see you.
Thank you.
And nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So tell us quickly about yourself. I know you've obviously Riverbend Realty, you own and operate, but how long have you been, you've been in the business for a long time?
I've been in the business since 2004. Prior to that, I was a teacher here in Cape Chronicle for 21 years, and I spent some time also as a traveling sales rep, representing Wadsworth Publishing, yearbook publisher located here in the state of Missouri, and then I got into real estate.
So what made you want to get into real estate?
I didn't want to get into real estate, to tell you the truth.
Really?
I got into real estate because I broke my knee in 2003, and I could no longer service the traveling, the wide area that I was traveling, and my brother talked me into trying real estate. He said, teachers can do real estate because you spend a lot of time teaching, and I have found that to be true. Most people don't buy homes very often, and most people go into it some with misconceptions and some with virtually no knowledge at all. So the teacher touch works in real estate.
I was going to ask you what attributes of teaching have bridged over to real estate.
Well, the ability to synthesize, I think, is a great deal, and to think on your feet, which of course a high school teacher has to do all the time, and also to help them set goals, especially first-time home buyers. I find quite often they aren't able to narrow down what it is they really want and need in a home. They of course don't understand the process, and I can teach the process, like at this point, second nature.
So what is the difference between a broker and a real estate agent?
Okay, a broker is the higher level of licensure. You start out with a license, and now the state of Missouri requires you to have at least 2 years of experience before you can even take the broker exam. Brokers, of course, have all the legal liability, and so a broker should be able to train the agents who work with him or her.
So since you started in 2004, how have you seen the landscape of the real estate business change?
Well, I hadn't been in real estate very long until the crisis of 2008 hit, 2008 and 2009.
Sure.
And, that was like a body blow to agents. I did a lot of work with foreclosures during that period in time, and got to know that process really well. So I worked with investors, but I also worked with Fannie Mae, I worked with banks, and now I still do some foreclosures, and I also do mostly residential, a little bit of commercial, but mostly residential.
And we were talking before we started. I know that there are many things that people, buying a home for the first time, that's scary.
It is very scary.
And as you said, having someone, you used the word before talking about service and how you view what you do as a service industry, so to speak. But having someone to walk that path with you. That's very, very important, and as a first-time home buyer especially.
There literally are hundreds of steps that the realtor does behind the scenes that the home buyer may not ever even understand. But included in those are things that also, of course, affect the homeowner, such as the kinds of inspections that you need and the time frame during which you have to do your inspections, the time frame during which you have to get approved for your loan. All of those calendar kinds of items are things that a realtor really helps the first-time home buyer, and also help the first-time home buyer know where the pitfalls are. I'll give you an example of that. A first-time home buyer might not know the difference between a breaker box in the basement for the electric service and a fuse box, but you can bet I know the difference.
Sure.
And so that's one of the things that I'm going to point out to a first-time home buyer or even an experienced home buyer and let them know we may have issues with your loan farther down the line if we don't do something about that fuse box. Small example.
Technology. How has technology changed, aided? Maybe it's made things tougher. Usually technology is for the good, but
it is.
In your time, how has technology changed your industry?
Well, when I first started, we still had those books that showed all the local listings, and you waited for a new book to come out. I don't even remember now what the timing on it was. I want to say maybe every couple of weeks. There's no such thing as a book now. Everything is located on the internet, and the real advantage of technology to the home buyer is you can look at a lot of homes and become far more educated than you could previously, where you were just looking at a few houses that you were viewing. Most homes have many photos posted nowadays, and some have tours posted, and so the buyer can do a lot of winnowing down themselves before an agent ever starts showing them houses.
That's got to be a time saver, definitely.
Saves
right?
on gas.
It absolutely does. So let's talk real quickly about the Missouri Realtors. I know you were very passionate before we started talking about how you are in front of our elected officials on a regular basis.
Yes.
And what are you doing in those cases when you're meeting with them?
We are always interested in protecting home ownership and in protecting homeowners. Everything that has to do with home ownership involves the local real estate association if they are realtors. We have two full-time lobbyists that work with the legislature all the time, and then we have realtor days where local realtors go to visit state legislators. And I think I told you before we started talking, they recognize us now. Those of us who make multiple trips,
Sure.
It's like, there she is again. You know, and sometimes they even know what I'm going to talk about. But this year, for instance, we, the same as in many years, we prepare brochures and handouts. We are always interested in protecting historic tax credits, for instance, and low-income tax credits. Those we're always interested in. The economic development tools, and there are others. This year we're very interested in protecting the citizens' right to referendum, which means passing the petition so that you can get an amendment on the state constitution. Missouri Realtors has been successful in that. For instance, you don't pay in the state of Missouri what's called a transfer tax every time you buy a home, and the reason you don't pay a transfer tax is we passed petitions and we got an amendment to the state constitution a few years ago that said there are no transfer taxes in the state of Missouri. You also don't pay sales tax on services. An example of a service would be your doctor's appointment, having your hair cut, paying your realtor. That's a service. And so we don't pay sales taxes on services in the state of Missouri, or doctor's visits, for instance. And that's an initiative that we started as Missouri Realtor Party, Political Action Party, pumped $1 million into that process, as well as shoe leather. You know, we passed a lot of petitions, and we are the only state anywhere around that doesn't have a sales tax or isn't considering a sales tax on services. We also do not have a transfer tax, and that's not true of any of the states that touch us.
Well, Liz, we could talk forever,
yes,
but our time is up. Before we go, though, congratulations on being named Realtor of the Year.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. We didn't talk much about the market, but let me point out that interest rates have been raised 9 times in 12 months, and that means a buyer who could afford, say, a $350,000 house last fall is going to be shopping in more like the $230,000 market now.
Well,
a dramatic difference.
Absolutely. Liz, thank you so much. We've been talking with real estate broker Liz Lockhart. Up next, we will be talking with Dr. Tamara Buck. Stay tuned.
People think that online degrees are very daunting and they're very nervous because it's in your hands, but it actually gives you the power and the flexibility to be able to complete those tasks whenever you have the time to do it. I definitely wish SEMO keeps expanding those online degrees because they're beneficial. They made or break my career.
Welcome back to Cape Chronicle. I'm Mike Renick. Dr. Tamara Buck is SEMO's Mass Media Department Chair, as well as the chair of the P.O.R.C.H Initiative, which is an organization striving to empower South Cape Girardeau. Dr. Buck, good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you.
You're a busy person, aren't you?
I am.
So real quickly, I know we got a couple things we want to touch on.
Sure.
As the chair of the Mass Media Department at SEMO, what does that look like for you? What does that entail?
Well, today it's very different than I think it might have been 2 or 5 years ago, and that's because media changes so quickly, but higher ed is changing so quickly right now. So it entails me doing a lot more recruitment than I would have normally done as a chair in the past. It requires me to really pay attention to what's happening in our industry and ensure that we are nimble enough in our curriculum to give our students the skills they need for tomorrow's jobs.
So the department here has been very successful. I know the Arrow is an award-winning paper here. It's amazing to see how things have changed in the media world. I know that there has been some changes within the department here over the last several years, but you guys continue to push the envelope.
I'm very proud of all of our students' success. We win a lot of awards.
You do?
At the local level, regional level, state level, and even national level. And that is the Arrow, of course, for which I'm an alum and a former advisor of.
Sure.
But also our advertising students in our creative agency, our film students are entering film festivals and entering. We've had a lot of success, and that just shows that we've got a strong curriculum.
Looking to the future real quickly, what do you see the evolution of the department here? Things move fast.
Things move fast, and I think when we started, we actually had a Bachelor of Arts degree, so we were much more within the artistic realm. We're still absolutely creatives, but we're having to focus on what's happening in the industry, and that is becoming more entrepreneurial. So we're adding more business elements to what we do. We're adding more STEM elements. We've got cooperations with the agricultural department, with the unmanned aviation department, and those are places where people would normally not see media going.
Sure.
But we want to use drones. We want to think about AI and virtual reality. Those are places that the industry is going. It's certainly where technology is going. We need to be there also.
The facility that we're in right now, what a beautiful facility that opened up several years ago, and the ability to put a lot of it all in one spot on Media Row, so to speak, in downtown Cape.
Yeah, the Russ Center for Media, we're very proud of, opened in 2016. I was lucky enough to help design a lot of the elements here. And everything we did was not thinking about right now. It was thinking about tomorrow.
Sure.
So we made this a very flexible learning facility, but also a professional lab. And I love to have alumni and professionals who are visiting to come through, because they are always like, yes, this is exactly the way it should look. And that's exciting considering it opened 7 years ago.
You're also the chair of P.O.R.C.H, which is playing such a vital role in South Cape. Where did this idea come from?
Well, a local philanthropist who did some research and found this model. He was reading, I believe, in the New York Times, but he read about how this community that was the poorest part of Atlanta actually revitalized itself, and it involved a lot of collaboration between school districts and business professionals and residents of the community. So this idea to him was, let's get together a committee of people in South Cape who basically have a vested interest in there, and get them to plan how best to revitalize their community. Our watchwords are revitalization without gentrification. So we don't want to make it nice for someone else to live. We want it to become a place that the residents are invested in improving, and we attack systemic issues that often exist in poor communities, so that South Cape becomes vibrant again. It's a place where people want to live. It's a place that's contributing to the schools and the business structure of Cape Girardeau.
I was on the website, capeporch.org, and a phrase kind of caught me as a quarterback group, I think was one of the phrases. So you're there alongside the community of South Cape to turn these conversations into positive conversations.
Yeah, the quarterback group actually was really involved in structuring the organization, and then we I won't say seated control, but we helped to seat a board of directors, and some of the members of the board of directors, including myself, were members of the original quarterback group. So the quarterback group now, those who are not active as board members, exist as advisors who help us to stay true to what our original mission was, and they are very connected as residents of the community. We're expanding to include more realtors, more business persons, educators. We're getting those people on the board now. We've just added 3 new members, and the goal now is to really focus on those 3 pillars of education, cradle to career education, mixed income housing, and health and wellness. So we have to build a bigger board to do all of that work, especially at a systemic level.
Absolutely. How long has P.O.R.C.H been around for?
Been around since 2016 as an idea. We debuted in the community in 2018 and really organized our board. Now we're a 501c3 with a full-time executive director, Tamika Randall,
Sure.
Who's doing a phenomenal job, and we are active.
You like the progress that you're seeing?
I love the progress. We've started with a housing initiative now. We're partnering with the public health center as well as the Cape School District. We've got Lincoln University and SEMO partnerships going. We have a lot of partners, because what we want people to know is we are not programmers, we're connectors. So we're connecting the existing wonderful programs in Cape Girardeau so that they can be implemented in a meaningful way that is resident-centered rather than something being imposed upon the residents.
Dr. Buck, we're out of time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks again to Dr. Buck. To end our show, we will talk with Wastewater Treatment Plant Manager Todd Fulton. That's next on Cape Chronicle.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff. Like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat.
My mother was always very familiar with her neighborhood, but one day she stopped at the stop sign for much longer than usual. And she didn't know whether she should go forward or turn, and she wasn't even really sure where she was at. It was very unsettling for her.
I felt so much better after my son told me, Mom, I don't want you to worry or be afraid. I'll be there for you and we'll figure it out.
Welcome back to Cape Chronicle. I'm Mike Renick. Todd Fulton is the Wastewater Plant Manager for the City of Cape Girardeau. The primary responsibility of Cape's wastewater utility is to operate and maintain the system that collects, treats, and disposes of sewage generated within the city. The sewer division maintains around 225 miles of sewer lines and has a daily flow capacity of 11 million gallons. Todd, how you doing?
Good, thanks, Mike.
Those are some big numbers.
They are big numbers. The city doesn't utilize all of that capacity right now. Average flows are around 6 million gallons a day. One thing I'd like to point out is water and wastewater treatment. That is one of the original recycling programs that's ever been. And you know, City of Cape is doing a great job of treating the wastewater. Probably everybody that's watching this right now is taking advantage of our services.
So I asked you this before, if you could explain kind of the difference between like what wastewater and stormwater. I think some people just see stuff going under the streets
They
and
think
water is water and
right.
It's all maybe going to the same place.
So actually in wastewater treatment, the goal of that 225 miles of collection system is to keep it sealed up. We don't want the rainwater to get in there and dilute the wastewater stream.
Okay.
For one, it increases the flow to the facility.
Sure.
So unfortunately, our collection system is not as tight as we would hope for it to be, so we continue improving that area. But as we get a heavy rain, we might see wastewater flows increase to 30 million gallons of water a day at that flow rate.
Wow.
And that makes treatment a little bit more difficult.
So what's the process of the system as it leaves your home or your business?
Sure. So generally wastewater treatment is you're going to flush that toilet at home.
Sure.
And that material is traveling through the system, makes it to the wastewater treatment facility. A lot of our equipment is designed to remove material that just because something's flushable doesn't mean you should really flush it. So we're removing plastic, rags, all of that material is going to the landfill. And that is the part that we can't actually recycle. From there, the water goes into a very large basin where it is, the conditions are just right for microbiology to flourish and treat the water. So we're converting it from the waste product that you discharge at your house into an actual microorganism and their waste products. So there's a conversion there that makes it safer, and then that product is further concentrated and we are making a fertilizer that's registered in the state of Missouri. The water portion, which is for the most part 99.9% of everything that comes in is water. That is just discharged to the receiving stream. In this instance, it's the Mississippi River.
So you mentioned the fertilizer.
Yes, sir.
That's what we have right here, right?
That is the fertilizer.
And this is so a new plant opened up in 2014, 2015?
At the end of 2014, we started treating wastewater. It took several years to get the fertilizer production up to where it is right now. And everything that we're bringing in at this point is being disposed of or utilized as a fertilizer.
But this was one of the initial goals, or you knew this could be
yes.
an eventual outcome whenever the new plant was
Yes,
built.
Absolutely. Even before we were utilizing a fertilizer, not to this level. This is a Class A exceptional quality fertilizer that I mentioned registered. Well, yeah, it is a fertilizer. We're making about 800 dry tons a year, but this can be applied anywhere. Whereas before there were limitations that you could only apply it below the surface of the ground and on certain crops only.
And this has been a benefit to the bottom line with the city of Cape.
It's a net cost savings for us.
And because this does get used, I know you have a partnership with.
And again, it is a almost 100% recycled product. That small portion does go to the landfill, but rags and plastics, things you wouldn't fit into that category.
Absolutely. So the system is it a from house or business to is it a gravity type system?
So the majority of Cape is gravity. We have 32 lift stations, and where there's a hill in between your house and the wastewater treatment facility and it can't flow there, we collect it into a basin, and pumps further carry it to the facility. But for the most part, it is gravity.
Okay. You mentioned some of these items, but as people are at their homes or their businesses, the things that should not make its way into the sewage system.
The real simple way to think about it is if it didn't come out of your body, you don't want to flush that down the toilet. And toilet paper, for sure, is fine. Flushable wipes are marketed, and we're spending a lot of money to remove flushable wipes.
I was going to ask you about those because those are at my house, the flushable wipes.
And I wish they would market them as throw them in the trash can wipes.
What are you doing throughout the year? I mean, that's 225 miles. So what's happening throughout the year to make sure that flow continues?
Sure. So that is a continual process. We have crews that are going out scouring the lines. We're also analyzing. You can imagine with that much sewer line, parts of it degrade over time, and we are either in some places we'll dig it up and replace it, in other places we reline the pipe where capacity will allow to remove the leaks.
So sometimes you got to back up at your house, and the question is,
it's a bad day.
It is a bad day. The question is, okay, is that my responsibility or is it the city's? Where does that line usually end or start, or however you want to describe that?
To the best of my understanding, the line actually begins where your sewer line connects to the main sewer line. Sometimes that's in the street. It's called the Y. Okay. So if the clog is in the line from your house to the street, which is a lot of the times where it happens, then it is your responsibility.
And I would say that you would probably say our lines are always moving smooth and clean. So
we do our best.
Yeah. All right, Todd, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time today. Thank you again for joining us for Cape Chronicle. The program is a collaboration between the Department of Mass Media at Southeast Missouri State University, the City of Cape Girardeau, and River Radio. Our executive producer is Eun Jeong Lee, and I'm Mike Renick. Thank you for watching.